Hello, Magic players! It is August 7th, 2013, and today we're going to be opening a 2014 core set event deck. The name of this event deck is Rush of the Wild, and we're going to see what we can get. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the contents of the box here before I actually get into the deck itself. So we got a few things here. We have a spin down life counter with the M14 symbol in place of the 20. So it's good for keeping track of your life or cheating at role-playing games. And this should be my deck here. We've got some promotional materials, a card divider, so that's, and then this attractive carrying case. So first I'm going to open this. This looks like it's the valuable cards. Or no, maybe this is the sideboard. Yeah, I think this is the sideboard. So actually, we'll save that in a second. And the main deck is right here. So if you're familiar with the environment, this is a standard deck currently. And that means that all of the cards in it are from M13 to M14. So, and actually, no, they don't have any M13 because M13 is actually going to cycle out in September as of the release of Theros. So this deck is meant to last you after Theros comes out, so there's no M13 cards in it. It focuses on M14 and actually there's quite a few Return to Ravnica block cards if you check out the deck list. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but right here on the cover is Chandra, but there's no Chandra Pyromaster in this deck, so you like I may have incorrectly concluded that there would be a Chandra in there, but I mean, actually, I don't think that they ever have mythic rares in an event deck, but I kind of got my hopes up when I first saw that. Anyways, so we have some Elvish Mystics, 4 of them right here. They're basically a Llanowar elf by any other name. So we'll start a little green pile over here. Just to kind of ramp. We have 2 Rakdos Cacklers, really good for this deck paradigm. This is going to be a red-green aggro deck, so the idea with this deck is to just put out creatures, swing, 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 and then to, there's some burn to finish people off and some combat tricks to vary it up, specifically Blood Rush, a lot of Blood Rush in this deck. So here's some Dryad Militants. That's if an instant or sorcery card would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So that kind of gives a headache to some of our graveyard recursion opponents. 2 Colonian Tuskers. These are good. They do cost 2 green though, so there might be something better that we could put in this deck if we choose to revise it. 2 Scar Guild Mages. Now these guys are good. They're just a nice utility card. And here's a workhorse of this deck. We have 2 Burning Tree Emissaries. When Burning Tree Emissary enters the battlefield, add a red and a green to your mana pool. So that makes your second turn possibly extremely threatening to your opponent. So let me organize these a little bit better. These are effectively green, and these are effectively red. Here's between. We have a Pyrewild Shaman, is the first rare I think we've hit in the main deck. So that's a Blood Rush card. It's from Dragon's Maze. Its Blood Rush cost is 1 and a red. Discard Pyrewild Shaman. Target attacking creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. That's part's pretty standard. And when it's in play, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, if Pyrewild Shaman is in your graveyard, you may pay 3. If you do, return Pyrewild Shaman to your hand. So that's not when it's in play. It's a graveyard effect, which is pretty cool. It's a Blood Rush card that you can keep messing them up with, which is awesome. We've got, speaking of Blood Rush, we have 3 Slaughterhorns. Its Blood Rush cost is cheap and gives it +3/+2. We have a Wild Beastmaster, which is another rare. And this, okay, so finally, this M14 core set, we've got a rare from M14. All right. So Ogre Battle Driver is 2 and 2 red. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. So that really helps you keep up the tempo. It's a little too bad that, you know, for our purposes, this is 2 and 2 red rather than red and a green, and we'll talk about that in a sec. This is Deadbridge Goliath. It's a scavenge creature from RTR. There's no doubt that having those +1/+1 counters helps late game. And here's another workhorse, Gorklan Rampager. So the Blood Rush is a red and a green. Discard him. Target attacking creature gets +4/+4 and gains trample until end of turn. So that is amazing. He's definitely, I mean, he doubles as a 4/4 creature with trample, but he's an awesome combat trick as well, all rolled into one card. Rubble Belt Raiders. Whenever Rubble Belt Raiders attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each attacking creature you control. Wrecking Ogre. Double Strike. So pretty much anything with Double Strike is going to work awesome with getting +1/+1 counters. So with that Rubble Belt Raiders and the Deadbridge Goliath, it acts as a multiplier effect. So yeah, he has Double Strike. He's also got Blood Rush, and he has the ability to give Double Strike with his Blood Rush ability. It's a little expensive though, but he's a rare. So we got 4 Gruul Guild Gates from RTR. I'll just put the lands up here. We have A Rogue's Passage. Stomping Ground, which is, nice. Always nice to get a shock land. And the rest here looks to be, I believe there's 12 forests. Let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mountains. And then for the burn in the deck, we've got 3 shocks. We have Amizium Mortars. If I was going to modify this deck, I might put some more Mizium Mortars because they're good in the beginning of the game, and then in the late game they act as a great mana sink to just wipe your enemy's board. It's pretty awesome. So put that there. Gruul Charm. Oh, we only have one Gruul Charm? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's another thing that you would maybe want to add more of to this deck. So Gruul Charm is a great utility card. Choose one. Creatures without flying can't block this turn, so you deal with one of the weaknesses of the red-green paradigm, which is you don't have a lot of flyers. So you want to deal with enemy flyers. Or you gain control of all permanents you own. Or Gruul Charm deals 3 damage to each creature with flying. So yeah, that kind of helps cover up a hole that the deck has, which is lack of flying. So Flames of the Firebrand, just some nice removal / burn on your opponent. Really flexible. Clan Defiance, it's a neat card. X, red and green, sorcery. Choose one or more. Clan Defiance deals X damage to target creature with flying. Clan Defiance deals X damage to target creature without flying, and or Clan Defiance deals X damage to target player. So, yeah, that does a lot of work with that 1X. So, late game that can really end up closing the gap in your favor. And lastly, in the main deck, we have Armed and Dangerous, which is a really good card, I think, from Dragon's Maze. Just Armed is good. So 1 in a red, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. And Dangerous, all creatures able to block target creature this turn must do so, and you can fuse them together. And as you can imagine, when you're pairing that up with those pump spells and your +1/+1 counters, that double strike can get really threatening, and that's good. Okay, now let's look at the sideboard. Okay, so we have Savage Summoning. Savage Summoning can't be countered. The next creature card you cast this turn can be cast as though it had flash. That spell can't be countered. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it's like a sort of a beefy insist. It helps if you're getting countered, then Savage Summoning is a good way to go. We have 3 Skull Cracks for dealing with enemy life gainers. 2 Naturalizes. There's a lot of nasty artifacts like Ratchet Bomb that could really hurt you, especially because if you look at this deck, there's a lot of 2/2 important 2/2s. So you might not, and if you were going to add more to this deck, you might want to add more 2/2s because of those Burning Tree Emissaries. So yeah, you want to naturalize those Ratchet Bombs. Slash the better what do you call it, artifacts out there. So here's more Gruul Charms. Okay, so yeah, if you find yourself facing a lot of flyers, there's some more Gruul Charms. Active Treasons, if there's a beefy creature that you just can't deal with, if you can't beat him, make him join you. Annihilating Fire deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. So that kind of helps to deal with Graveyard Recursion, Reanimator decks. And Enlarge, target creature gets +7/+7 and gains trample until end of turn. It must be blocked this turn if able. That's kind of self-explanatory. So yeah. So that's this deck. It is, like I said, the strategy behind this deck is pretty simple. It's pretty much just to get out as many creatures in the beginning as you can, and then just swing, and then finish them off with stuff like Flames with Firebrand and Mizia mortars, and just you utilize your burn spells to close that final gap once they start getting stuff that can start blocking you. So yeah, if you're new to Standard, this deck could help you start to build a new deck. So you could, Scavenging Ooze is probably pretty good to add to this deck. Mutavault would probably be good to add to this deck. So when you start, pulling cards or buying cards, this works as a good base to build a better deck for yourself. Other possible inclusion, maybe Young Pyromancer, because we have a fair bit of burn in this deck. So every time you cast one of those shocks, for instance, you'd also get a bonus 1/1 elemental token. So it's kind of a nice trade. Well, it's not really even a trade, it's just a bonus. Trying to think of anything else. So there's some issues with this deck that I can see. There's a few sort of mono color cards like this, and like the Ogre Battle Driver. That's not a big deal in and of itself. It's just you don't want to have too many. Like the Colonian Tusker. If you had the Colonian Tusker on turn 2 and you had a mountain and a forest, that could get sort of slow for your deck. And if you had a Burning Tree Emissary in your hand, then you wouldn't be able to cast the Colonian Tusker on turn 2. I mean, your ideal hand has a Burning Tree Emissary and a 2-drop to follow that Burning Tree Emissary up with. So you wouldn't be able to with Colonian Tusker because the Burning Tree Emissary produces a red and a green. So you want something more like that Young Pyromancer or that Scavenger Ooze. Typically in these red-green decks, you have a Flint Hoof Boar, but that's going to cycle out in Theros. So another issue with those double casting cost things is that another thing that's cycling out is Rootbound Crags. So you definitely want to get more Stomping Grounds as you accrued a larger collection to make mana easier in this. But instead of being able to buttress that with Rootbound Crags, which would be the natural second choice, M14 has no dual lands. So you're up a creek in that regard. You have to rely on these Gruul Guild Gates, which come out tapped. So that makes it slightly slower, but then again, all multicolor decks are going to be slightly slower in that regard when Theros rolls around. So anyways, yeah. I could go on speculating, but if you guys have any ideas for cards put in this deck, I want to hear them. So put those in the comments. And we currently also just mentioning that we have a Facebook contest going on right now. There's the main prize is a Yu-Gi-Oh prize. However, you could also just opt to get $25 in store credit. So I'm going to link that in the description, that contest. All you need to do is like a comment on our Facebook page to be entered. So check that out. Check out this event deck on our website, and let me know what you think in the comments. And until next time, take care.